The motion before the House is that the House note grievances. The member for Morialta.
Thank you, sir. Thank goodness for small mercies. A government with absolutely no idea what they're doing, with the support of about 1 in 3 voters in South Australia, entering their second year, a year when the Premier said that we would have our socks knocked off by the boldness of their policy agenda. Thank goodness they had a policy agenda to look at, and that, sir, is the policy agenda put forward by the Liberal Party at the last state election. Not only in refunding Education Adelaide have we seen the government support Liberal Party policies, not only in supporting body-worn cameras for our South Australian police, which is going to be in tomorrow's budget, not only in restoring pensioner concessions on council rates, strong Liberal policy announced by the Liberal Party a long time ago, not only in agreeing that the Adelaide High School's ideal site was not on the Royal Adelaide Hospital site, not only in agreeing that CFS volunteers should have cancer compensation, and not only in keeping emergency services sectors separate rather than a ridiculous reform process put in place by the Minister for Emergency Services. Today we have seen the latest in a tranche of Liberal policies gratefully grabbed by the Premier and the government in their desperate search for relevance, abolishing the River Murray levy on residential households. Liberal policies that this government should be grateful for, because what else have they got going for them? But can I suggest to the government, with 24 hours until we see the budget handed down, there's some other things that they should do if they want to rescue the South Australian public from the extraordinary consequences of 13 years of dreadful misadministration. Can I suggest to the government, let's start with tax reform. Let's start with the tax reform that the business community in South Australia is so desperately calling for. Payroll tax reform, land tax reform. The Premier went out before the election to talk about how they were supporting small businesses. The Treasurer went out after the federal budget, thanking the federal government for their relief for small business tax reform. And yet when does the tax reform and the tax relief that the South Australian government's given the small business sector run out? Very, very soon. Tomorrow we need to see more relief for the small business sector through the payroll tax reform. Can I suggest to the government that the Commissioner for Children is an urgent measure that must be brought into place as soon as possible with investigative powers, something recommended by the Leighton Report in 2003, something desperately needed in our child protection sector for an extended period of time, something promised by the member for Wright as the Minister before the last election, legislation not even introduced until last year, and now it's nowhere on the notice paper. Can I suggest to the government that separating child protection out of the Education Department is a critical Liberal policy that this state desperately needs? Can I suggest, while we're on the education sector, we might as well look at moving Year 7 into high school, as it is in every other state in Australia, which is so important for improving our NAPLAN results. Can I suggest to the government that actually doubling the, reducing red tape for the small business sector is critical, capping council rates for the cost of living. A cap on the council rates for South Australian households is desperate to the CPI level. These sorts of suggestions will actually improve the quality of life for all South Australians, and the government in tomorrow's budget must respond to some of them. But one issue is critically important, and that is infrastructure. Before the last election, there is in fact a Labor government policy which we supported. We supported it before the last election, we support it now. But it is the Labor Party that decided to abolish the upgrade of the Paradise Interchange. Now, at the moment, we're spending $160 million on a project that will save an average of 7 minutes for the average transport commuter time, but in a whole day. 7 minutes, and it's costing $160 million. As one of the very few, if only, members of the House, apart from the member for Hartley, who actually uses the Oban bus service on a regular basis, almost every sitting day, can I tell you that I spend more time walking from my car to the Oban bus service at the Paradise Interchange than is going to be saved by the $160 million tunnel that the government is proposing to go ahead with. Now, for $7 million, the government was going to build a new interchange at Paradise. In 2012, long before the car park tax that the government keeps using as their excuse as to why they cancelled it, 2012, the member for Flory, in response to my motion in the House, the member for Flory announced that Paradise was going to be upgraded. She said, in response to my petition from 1,100 residents that I and the member for Hartley collected, even though the member for Hartley wasn't even in Parliament at the time, the member for Flory said that at the Paradise Interchange there was going to be, the department had sought through public tender concept design at Paradise to improve passenger loading times, improve improve accessibility, improve access to and exits from the interchanges to the adjacent road network, improve commuter bicycle and car parking capacity. That was what the government promised in 2012, well before the budget, well before the car park tax. Tomorrow it is time for them to come good on their commitment for the Paradise Interchange.
The member for Flora.